Everybody, the topic just came up here recently, and I got my journal here because a team member asked it, and I thought it was a very interesting topic overall. And it was, how do you manage health while running a business? And this person sees that I do a million different things. I'm all over the place. I'm a person who's pretty freaking easily excited by most things in business or life in general. And he's just like, you're doing all this stuff, yet you're still putting in the work and managing the other parts. And what were some of the keys to that for me? And so for me, I kind of focus this around 3 things, and then I'll talk about some of the interesting stuff I do. I just recently did a podcast talking about some of the stuff I use to track all of this, and Oura being one, Garmin being the other. That's a separate piece. And so the 3 main things that I do to kind of strategize and stay on top of health are, 1, have goals, right? So a goal for me, which is going to be super, super hard to accomplish, is I set a goal to be, I've been saying this for years, that I was going to get back down to 190 pounds. With a target, there's something to aim for, right? With that, now I can use tracking and stuff to point in that direction. We're going to talk about the next. But with a target, there's something to aim for. And so have goals. That is one for me, the weight. And I do know that there's some barriers to that for me, because like my body fat's already super low. I do DEXA scans to stay on top of that. And for me to get to that weight, I'm going to need to lose muscle before I start going to like sub 5% body fat. So there's that piece. For me, there's also, like, if you have any kind of hobbies or anything that take physical activity, that's like a little goal piece, right? Like, so maybe you want to go run a 5K, or you want to do a marathon, or you like mountain biking, or you like riding dirt bikes, and to be good at that, or you like hunting, right? And to be good at these things, you would be even better if your physical fitness was better. So you set targets for like things that are more challenging, like this hunting trip that we're going to do later in the year is going to be hiking in 10 miles with gear, and then anything we get, we're going to be carrying it out. And so that because of that, you have something to train for. So you have a goal to shoot for. So I kind of talk about that weight goal, talk about like fun, cool goals, that the preparation is, 1, it's going to carry you and give you more reason throughout the year to be working on that health and fitness aspect of your life. And then it's going to make that event better. Like the Ironman I trained for last year. Training is just like, a lot of people could complete one, but it's just going to suck really bad. Like training takes a lot of the suck out of it, where it's only going to suck bad at the end to push the rest of the way, but it reduces. And I kind of heard that about marathons too. You train really hard to really reduce all that pain and suffering, and it's really only the last 3 miles, 6 miles that end up being brutal when you're really, really hammering something like that out. So goals are big. And other little goals, like I just kind of set a goal this year that I'm gonna keep a high step count all the time, unless my activity's crazy in a different aspect. Like if my activity's crazy from swimming for a day, maybe my step count will drop, but I'm setting very clear intentional goal I'm trying to hit like 14,000 steps a day every day. I'm easily hitting 10, but just these little metrics. So 1, goals that point you in the right direction, that keep you on point. 2, we're going to call it, it's 3 pieces that I focus on this. And this is going to be your food, your tracking, and your supplementation. And so food, like in tracking that as a whole, and there's more tracking than just the food tracking. For me, staying on top of that and making sure, like based off of those goals, then I know what do I need to do? Where should I be calorie wise? And then really to shoot towards that goal. But then also be getting enough calories. I tie in Garmin into this to be fueling the work I do, right? The training, these other things, because you also can't starve yourself. That's one of the big hangups of you hear everybody gets on semaglutide. And I was just listening to a podcast talking about this, where people get on semaglutide and it makes you not eat at all. And so then people lose muscle and fat. And then typically they gain all fat back if you don't change your habits. It's really easy to like underfuel and then burn everything. And muscle is going to be really, really positive in training and really keeping your health well, because long term losing muscle, that's going to be a detriment to you in the future, something you're going to face. And the more you can add now of lean mass, the more that you're kind of like prepped going into this, and get in the proper good habits to keep that on. So the food, making sure you're eating quality foods, that's a big piece of it. The tracking, so you kind of know how much you are eating. I use Chronometer for that. I used to use my Fitness Pal Chronometer's been awesome. And then kind of setting those metrics based off what you're doing, because you need to figure out your base metabolic rate and figure out how much you really truly need. Then prepping meals come in with that food. Like, I love prepping meals. I love eating whole food. I kind of like cooking anyway, and that stuff's way better than the meals you get paid that come to your door. Like, that's super convenient, but I spend almost no time. It's the best stuff. Like, I love it. And I can get in this cadence where I get 5 different meals that I can season different ways. And I look at food like fuel. I don't care. Like, I don't need all these creative, fancy things. I'm eating to sustain and to be able to go out and keep shooting towards goals. There are times where food is cool and it's fun, but ultimately it's just fuel, right? And I still love what I eat. It's not like it's boring to me. You know, like most people, if you think, you eat pretty similar things all the time, even if you think you don't. Maybe you put hot sauce on it this time, or maybe you do a little tweak here, but you don't get that far out of this small circle when you really, really think about it, at least the average person. And so that's the food and the tracking, and then the supplementation of this. And I guess there's more tracking. The employee mentioned that he sees that someone comes in here quarterly and takes my blood. So they track all these metrics. So what I liked about Chronometer versus MyFitnessPal was really showing me with, like, okay, the vitamin stack that I take, the supplementation, where am I at on all my little different metrics, my zinc, selenium, calcium, vitamin C, be this, be that, be the other, all these different pieces. So I can see that I'm optimizing and I'm getting the amounts, at least the amounts that I need. And then with this, when you add in blood tests quarterly, you can check every other thing to see where your levels are at, your testosterone, your B vitamins, your sodium. And then I have a very, very extensive blood test quarterly, because I'm also looking for longevity metrics of things that could be soft calcium and things that could become future issues. So it's not just a minimal like lipid test. And so that's some of the tracking, along with the tracking of all of the other activity and the actual calories themselves, based off of the goal to try to maintain and look and watch, okay, I'm doing all these things, okay, I'm improving, or am I going down, to see. That DEXA scan was also huge tracking, because I get to see that over the course of the year, I was able, in 2024, I was able to take my body fat from 12% to 8.4%, and I was able to add 10 pounds of lean mass while staying relatively the exact same weight. And so there are these metrics you get to watch, and as you build these pinpoints, you really can see, okay, what I'm doing, is it making a positive difference? Is it making a negative difference? Am I moving in the right direction? Do I see the gains? Like for me lately, I play with supplementation, and I see what benefits does it bring. I use a Thorne multivitamin pack, which has an AM and a PM pack, and then I use resveratrol on top of that. I also have fish oil that I take. Methionine or methionine, something like that. But the thing that I was really going to get into that I've been intrigued by lately, ashwagandha, I seem to be very beneficial to take some of that in the morning and some before I go to bed, along with magnesium before I go to bed. And those all seem to help me sleep a lot, along with my PM vitamins. So you add all this stuff together, and it's all just these little pieces that go towards fitness. It sounds like a lot, but it's really, I don't spend any time doing any of this stuff. Like, it's a morning routine. Oh, I added creatine back in, because creatine, I don't really think I need it because of how much red meat I eat, but it has mental acuity. There's a lot of studies that say it helps mental acuity, helps your sharpness. And I've hit my head a lot, and there's a lot of times where I think that there's a lot of drawers that I can't always pull open. And I feel like ashwagandha's kind of helped me. Maybe it's that, or maybe it's my training. I don't know. That's why you're always testing and measuring. Some could just be placebo. But to me, I feel like I'm crisper than I have been in a long time. And so maybe it's a factor of all, but that was one of the things that I think could have contributed to it. And then, yes, creatine could potentially help that as well. And then finally, the training. How do you fit that in a day when you're already busy? I think it's 75 Hard that showed me you can do much more in a day than you think you can do. Once I started doing that and realizing, wow, I really have a lot of bandwidth, I just need to maximize my time, I really just started blocking and leveraging my time for doing these things. Like when I had the Ironman training, and I'm still kind of training for that because I will be competing in more, it was a 2-a-day thing. And I enjoy training. So I do early morning training. I fit that in way before everybody. That's like kind of my own personal time. And then, like around lunchtime, I don't go out and take a lunch. I don't want to go sit at a restaurant. I have my food with me. I eat while I'm working. And then my time to get my wits back about me is when I'm out on a run at work. And so I sew the things together so I'm able to accomplish all of those, and they all flow into my workflow. And honestly, a run midday for me is pretty much like I might as well be meditating. And so I really, really love that. And that's been super beneficial for me. And so with you having all that, that's how I sew that in and fit that. And when you look at training, it becomes so much easier to train when there's reasons. Right now, I'm kind of like the keeping the high step is to try to work on that 190 goal. The continuing the swimming and continuing some of the other stuff gets to add variety. So I don't just lift weights. I don't just run. I don't just swim. I do a bunch of mobility and different things. And I'm also like very dedicated to, I guess the final piece that's a addition to this that I keep seeing everyone talk about is I've really adopted a growth mindset, seeing that there's a lot of progress you can make, and this is a forever road, and it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I'm going to continue stacking the little 1% improvements that I can make, and I'm going to keep testing and measuring because it's worth it. I only live once. Why would I not try to get as much out of this being, this body? And so those are the things I do. Those are the things I focus on. I could go more in depth than any of those. I could talk really anything about fitness for hours and break out into individual pieces of this. But those are kind of the things top of mind that help. And then I use all the different tracking stuff, Oura Ring, Garmin, DEXA, like I said, the blood work, these other little metrics to really watch how things are going. I guess another piece that I didn't even think about that equates into this so heavily is sleep. And that's been another huge focus of mine, pushing to get 7+ hours of sleep. And all these things add together into continued health, and you're never going to get better if you don't focus on it, right? What isn't measured doesn't improve. So if there's something that I left out here that you use to really stay in top physical fitness, and you operate a business, or you're just busy in general, or it doesn't matter, this is what you do, leave that in the comments. I'd love to see it. Talk to all of you soon.